So just letting you know that I will be announcing it while I start my seminar as well. But I'm keeping around 45-50 minutes for the entire thing. Okay.
Okay.
And I'm keeping about 5-10 minutes for an interaction in case there's any doubt or any question that the students might have or people who are listening, so that they can directly interact. So it will be easy. Like maybe one person has a question, but the answer might be helpful to a lot of other people as well.
Yes, sir.
So
Yes.
that's how I do it generally in all my seminars. I hope it is okay with you guys also.
Okay, okay. Okay,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am. It's perfectly
Madam, I have a
well.
suggestion. If it is necessary and helpful for the students, maybe the question, answer, and clarification session could be extended a little bit more, maybe 15 minutes or so.
Sir, I have actually made the presentation in a manner which is extremely self-explanatory,
Okay,
so that I
that's
don't
fine.
have to, give too much of data. It doesn't really,
All right. Okay. All right.
so I've kept it like that. But if it extends, I mean, I'm not saying that we have to finish it within a time, but we can always extend it if there's more questions, people have more queries. It is good only because that means they are interested. It's actually sign of a success if people have questions, frankly speaking.
Yes, yes. Sir, should we start now?
We have crossed the 100 mark, so let's start.
Okay. Shashwata?
Okay. Good. Am I audible to everyone and visible too?
Yes, 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 Shashwata.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Maulana Abul Kalam Azad University of Technology, we warmly welcome you to the fourth session of Corporate Classroom, the online training series jointly organized by the Training and Placement Cell, the Language Laboratory of MAKAUT. The concept of Corporate Classroom is an out-of-the-box take on grooming students on how to develop their soft skill set in order to let their skills beat their drums for them. In these sessions, the corporate joins hands with the academicians in order to provide a worthwhile training experience to the participants. In the last three sessions, we learned about how to face personal interviews and group discussion sessions and about the importance of soft skills. In this session titled Writing for Results, How to Craft Effective Emails, the participants will be learning the art of composing efficient emails with a classy touch of professionalism. This very classy touch may help to convey a good impression about the sender in terms of professional interactions.
Today, the Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sir, of MAKAUT, Professor Dr. Shoikat Moitro, is unable to present in the person, but he sends his blessings for today's session and encouragement for the Corporate Classroom Initiative as a whole. Now, the Director of Natural Applied Sciences and Social Sciences and Professor in charge of the Language Laboratory, Professor Dr. Sukhendu Samazdar, will enlighten the audience on the mission and vision of our initiative called the Corporate Classroom and put his opening remarks. Please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Koyal. Namaskar. Distinguished keynote speaker, fellow panelists, and participants of the borderless community of students and teachers. Good afternoon. On behalf of Maulana Abul Kalam Azad University of Technology, West Bengal, its leadership, and on my personal behalf, I welcome you to this session with a warm heart and an open mind. The idea of corporate classroom is very simple. The idea is recognizing that we learn not only in our classrooms, typical conventional classrooms, but also, and more importantly, often from outside. we often remember more and take it more seriously what we hear from the horse's mouth. So we are engaging or in this effort, and we are doing this online because that's the medium available to us now under the conditions. Honorable Vice Chancellor gave us a very clear directive right at the beginning of this pandemic that we should leave no stones unturned to encourage and engage the students during these unprecedented times when most, if not all of us, are at a loss. Here, I must point out that in order to materialize that vision, what the university has done is to keep such sessions accessible to students, the entire student community of MAKAUT as well as elsewhere. For such widespread and unbarred accessibility, we have not kept any registration fee for such sessions. And that is possible thanks to our guest speakers and keynote speakers from the corporate world who, in the past, in present, and in future, shows their generosity and graciousness and commitment to education by donating their valuable time. So we, the university, on behalf of the university, we appreciate that. The other thing about these sessions is we try to do this in a manner where learning takes place or discourse takes place by learning by doing. So there will be exercises. There will be exercises even before in other sessions there were on this, there is going to be. And right now, on behalf of the organizers, and I am assigning the first homework of this session. All the participants are requested, and the in-house students of MAKAUT, it is required that after the session ends, by 3 o'clock tomorrow, they will send an email to the address that I'm going to put up in the chat box. And the subject of that email is going to be takeaway from session 4 of the corporate classroom. So on this note, I better stop here and turn over the podium to experts on this field. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, as we move into the session, I would like to introduce our panelists and our keynote speaker for the session. We have Dr. Anandarup Sarangi and Manos Ghosh in the panel, and we have Ms. Sudeshna Chakraborty, verbal ability and GDPI WAT expert of Cubics. Over to you, ma'am.
Hello, everybody, and extremely honored and delighted to be a part of this initiative. Completely appreciate the way MAKAUT has gone ahead and organized such a huge learning experience, even at the time of this pandemic. The way everything you've managed and you're doing, really appreciating that. So coming quickly onto the subject at hand, as all of you know, we are trying over here to give you a very clear guideline as to how to write effective emails. Okay. Now, before I start the session, let us just try and understand a little bit. Let me just share the screen with you first, and then I'll go start talking about what is it that we are looking forward to. Okay. So whenever when I'm starting the session, there's certain things that I would like to make very, very clear over here, that this presentation that I've made, or the presentation that I'm going to, or the topic that I'm going to talk about, I'm going to take it for granted that this is for the absolute initiative, somebody who has not really written a formal email, a professional email, I'm trying to say. I'm sure all of you write mails, maybe, to each other, to your departments, or maybe to friends. That can always happen. Like you send SMSs, or you text your friends and stuff. I'm sure you do that. But this is a formal understanding of how to write business emails. So this is actually catered towards that. And so this is for students who have never done this before, somebody who will be entering the workforce, somebody who's who needs to understand how much of a difference even a single email can make when you are, let's say, applying for a job. Let's say you are writing to someone that you are going to appear for an interview, or you're following up for an interview that you have already given. So how should you sound? How important it is that you sound right? What is the image that you are projecting? All these things. So this is the understanding that I've tried to put forward in this particular presentation, and this is the uh, way I'll be proceeding. Okay. Now, my request to everyone, or the students and people who might have any questions regarding this, is to please note down your questions. And once I've finished with the presentation, of course, I'd love to take up all your queries and answer to the best of my abilities to whatever doubts that you might have. Okay. So let's just start. So first of all, emails, if you see the late 90s, we know the importance of this had started. And today it's something that you can't do without. I mean, it's paramount that you, in today's globalized world, you look at the importance of an email. It's like it plays a paramount part in shaping, or let's say facilitating communication. It shapes decisions, and it even influences businesses. Okay, that's how important it is. The way you write an email creates an image inside the mind, or in front of the receiver. How clear you are in your communication, how well presented you are you coherent in your thought process? Are you able to express your ideas in a precise and clear manner? So if you are somebody who's, let's say, applying for a job, just imagine the kind of impact it would be needed to make within those maybe just few seconds, when that person takes time off to read your email and forms that image about you. Okay, so that is how important this is. So electronic email is an method of exchanging messages between people, and from one, this is one of the fastest medium of sending across. And given that workplace today is as diverse as the entire globe, you have offices all over the globe, you have people constantly talking across cultures, countries, languages. Therein, that's the importance that now comes up in this form of communication, wherein the right words, the right tone, the right intonation, the right way of phrasing whatever is it that you want to say makes a huge lot of difference. Now, we are going to talk about email etiquettes over here. What are the serious, I mean, first of all, obviously, how you write a good email, and then what are some strictly do's and strictly should not ever do. Okay. So it obviously helps in streamlining communication. You should be very clear inside your head what is it that you want to write, and it sends an instant message to the other person, and the other person can also send an, if that's a required transaction, can send an answer back immediately as well. Okay, so make it that your request and information should be clear and concise, and give enough information that your recipient needs to understand what is it that you want to say. Okay, so verbosity is out. You cannot really use very lengthy words. You cannot use, lengthy sentences. You cannot use, I mean, when I say communication, communication is actually something that is sometimes misunderstood in its form. Okay, a lot of people think that if you can write beautiful words, or if you can, give out some very dashing way of saying something that creates a huge lot of impact on somebody who's the people get impressed by big words or beautiful language. Let me be very clear. It is the intention and the way, the clarity of these messages that is more important. It is not important that you have to use beautiful words or great words. Yes, the preciseness of the words do matter. So even if it is simple language, it has to convey what is it that you want to convey. That is more important. Whether or not, I mean, some people might have this, oh my God, my let's say we are talking about English as a medium over here, because that is international language and that's a language you are supposed to be always communicating in, at least in all your formal emails. So let's say you sometimes feel that because I don't write so much, maybe I don't actually have a very strong vocabulary or very big vocabulary. So you might not have access to fancy words, that's fine. But as long as you know how to convey your message in a simple language, it's absolutely fine. You don't really have to think too much about it. So please keep that in mind when we talk of communication. It doesn't require huge words. It doesn't require that. Moving on. Now, this is what, as a person, I feel that if you are writing an email, this is what you should think about before you even, let's say I'm talking of a very formal email or a first time email you're writing for something, you require something out of it. And it is important as a part of your candidature when you are writing something of the sort. Okay. So this is what I ask most of my students and most of the people who come to me for advice about this. This is 5 I's that I say that you should keep in mind when you're thinking about your objective. Why are you writing this email? What is the purpose of writing this email? So inform, inquire, influence, instruct, incite. It can be any one of these 5. It can be a combination of 2 or more. Okay, it completely depends on what is it that you want to do with this email that you are sending across. Are you sending an information? Are you simply sending an information that possibly a meeting is supposed to be held regarding something on this date? Is it an inquiry? Are you trying to influence a decision? Are you trying to influence a change of venue? Anything. It can be anything of that sort. Is it an instruction that you are sending across to your subordinates? Now, insight tends to have a little negative intonation in a lot of, in its general sense. I agree to that. But what I mean by insight over here is prompting someone to action. Okay. Let's say something has not been happening or lying shallow for quite some time, and you want people to take up and take notice and do something about it. So you are prompting someone to action. So that's the sense I bring forward when I talk about inciting something. It not in the actual negative sense that the word generally gets associated with. So it can be one, it can be a combination of 2 or more, depending on what task are you looking at getting done. Why are you writing the email? Until unless you are clear inside your head. I think like Saw was just talking about that you had some 2-3 sessions earlier regarding GDs and PIs. I'm sure the experts over there would have also said that whenever you are talking in a personal interview or in a GD as well, if you are not clear inside your head regarding what is the answer, what is, first of all, what is the question that's been asked of you, and how would you like to answer it? If you are not clear, you know what happens in an interview, obviously. You start using us and and you start searching for words that goes around that question rather than coming to that. The same thing will happen with your written communication as well. Because if you are not clear inside your head, what is it that you want to send across, it will be haphazard. There'll be no coherency in the email. So be very clear, focus on your content, and don't let unnecessary ideas impose on your principal message. Concentrate on the main message. If it is information, send an information. If it is an instruction, send an instruction. Do not put 2-3 other things and then muddle the entire stuff that the actual message gets lost in the process. So this is the most primary thing you remember even before you start writing it. Okay, moving on. Now, these are the lines that I think I'm taking a little time to explain, because although I felt that most of you are pretty conversant with what these lines do, but I felt since I am anyway instructing, as I said, this is oriented towards people who have never written a formal business email before. So I decided to include this in my presentation so that it's extremely clear inside everybody's head what these lines mean and how you should use them effectively. The two line obviously is for each individual or the individuals who are responsible for the response or making to whom the email is primarily intended for. They would be the primary focus or at least part of the action, and the message or the subject line, whatever you are writing over there, it is related directly to the people you are sending in the two lines. They are the primary recipient to your email. So if you're writing an email to your boss, you mention his email ID over there. He is the primary recipient. Okay. Your message, your subject is intended for this particular person. So this is what a two line does. A CC line, a carbon copy line, that's actually said. So this is a courtesy that you extend and you're keeping people in the loop. Okay. So let's say it's a marketing decision that has been taken or you are informing something. And let's say you are, let me give an example to make this very clear. Let's say you are responding to a complaint of a customer and you are writing a solution or let's say some kind of a grievance addressed to that particular person. So you write two for the person intended, the customer who's intended, and maybe you are now CCing it to your boss so that he knows that you have done something about it, that you have taken the required action, maybe because that was required. Or you put in a CC copy to, let's say, somebody in the other department who's equally responsible for keeping track of that. So you put in a CC line to people to keep people in the loop. Okay. So no action or response is expected of individuals on the CC. It only is as for information that you are doing it. Okay. So this is just to keep people in the loop. Now we come to the BCC line, which is a blind copy. This is a very dicey area, okay, pretty dicey. And you need to be a little careful when you are using a BCC. Now, I'll tell you generally why BCC is even used. I don't expect that as a first timer, most of you will need to use a BCC at all. But since we are on the subject, I'll just clarify it out for you. BCC is generally used so that, sometimes you are giving the copy of the email to people you don't want the other recipients to know about. Although that is I'm not sure in how many cases that can be useful, but sometimes people do it. You want people in the loop, you don't want other people to know about it. So you sometimes do a BCC over there. Okay. Sometimes people say that because you don't want to accidentally do a reply all, so you keep a BCC copy. So that these are some of the reasons given by professionals when they use a BCC. But a BCC can have some adverse effects as well, because what if the person you have actually sent the BCC to accidentally does a reply all? So the very purpose that you had actually thought of, that you don't want the other people to know that you had sent a BCC to somebody, now gets to know that you have done it. So it might not create a very good image of you. So this is one area you got to be very careful about when you're using some of this, if you're making use of this feature. And another thing can be in a BCC is, generally this is done by the marketing departments. This can get filtered in spam. Okay, so maybe if you intended somebody to actually read it, that person never gets to read it because the spam filters it out, because it would be marked to a lot of people. So these are some negatives associated with the BCC. This is something a little dicey. I would always suggest to use this very carefully and to avoid it until unless it's something very necessary. I generally, if you ask me in my professional life, I've had very few reasons to use a BCC. Okay, very few reasons. I'm not saying never. Sometimes I've had to do it because of some reason, but it's not something that I've found to be terribly of importance to me. So be very careful. Moving on. Now, the subject line is something that I put a lot of importance in. Okay, you have let's say if you're writing a mail for the first time, and if you're applying for something, if you're asking for something, let's say you are not, it's in your favor, it's important to you that your email gets noticed. Okay, it's something like, let's say, when I say like your CV. I'm sure in your GDPI as well, the experts would have told you how important is that your CV looks right, sounds right, because that's where they get interested in you. Same thing I would say as far as your subject lines go. Okay. So it should effectively summarize the message. If it is clearly written, if it knows what is it that you are talking about, then it gets the required attention. Else, I mean, somebody might be getting 100 emails a day and might not even bother to look at what this email is all about. If you are unclear, if you do not write it the way it is supposed to be written. So for example, let's say, I'm just giving you a few examples, offhand example in the sense of, in case something of this sort gets written. For example, let's say if somebody is writing for a job application, okay? So the subject line might read, Human Resource Assistant Application dash John Smith. So you're very clear that this is the application you are working for. This is your name. This person is asking for it. So obviously the person who's going to read it, the recipient knows what this is all about and who has written it. So if it is of his interest, if hoping that this is of his interest, he's going to open the mail and then go on and read it. Let's say if you are doing some kind of an interview follow-up, you've given an interview and you would like to get a response back about it. So you might say that the marketing manager interview follow-up. Very clear. It is extremely clear that this is what you, the email is going to talk about. This is what the email is all about. Okay. If it is for a work request. So requesting project X idea submission dash due 15th November. So again, very clear. This is what we are looking at. This is what the email is going to be all about. If it is for a meeting invitation, so you say something like, meet about social media strategy, Tuesday, 15th of October, something. So be as clear about the intention of the mail. What's the reason you're writing the email? And if it should be very clearly given so that the person who's receiving it knows exactly what to expect out of it. Subject line should effectively summarize the message. Do not use more than 6 to 7 words in subject line. Please don't use all caps. Please do not do that. Use capitalization only where it is necessary. Maybe the first word or the subsequent words, maybe, but no, not the entire thing should not be in caps at all. And if you are replying to a message, please remember to change the subject line when the topic changes. A lot of people do not remember it. And they blindly just reply and forget that the same topic is still continuing. It creates a very bad impression in a formal atmosphere. You might not feel these things when you are writing to people you know very intimately, people you are on very friendly terms. In that case, it's acceptable. It's okay because it's not just about business anymore. It's about personal relationships as well. But we are not discussing that. We are discussing a absolutely formal atmosphere wherein these things get weighed against how professional you are and how much of an etiquette you follow when you are writing a formal email. So this is something I'd urge you to remember as well. Moving on. Now, salutation. So when you start by this, I've got a lot of people who are in pretty, big positions in HR as far as both national and international companies go. So I obviously have a routine talk with them regarding the changes that has happened. Now, as far as India goes, I would always urge you to be safe, then be adventurous. So keep a formal greeting, okay? Something like, hello, Mr. So-and-so, or dear Mr. John, dear Miss John, something of that sort. So keep it very formal and don't try and be very peppy and try and establish an instant rapport through this on the first mail. At least I would urge you to be cautious about this because this can be misread and mistranslated the way the reader is at that point of time. The recipient might not be in that frame of mind at that point of time. So it's always better to be safe than to be sorry about this. Okay, so be clear that your recipient feels okay when that person reads the salutation. It all depends on the kind of relationship you have with the recipient. So as I said, because this presentation is oriented towards first timers, we are looking at only formal hello or good morning, nothing more than that. If you are a part of an organization and you have been talking to the client for a very long time, then maybe the salutation changes. Okay, moving on. You can have, when you're starting now, the body of the email. They can either be a formal way of beginning, that can be by drawing a reference to the subject. So whatever subject that you have sent, what you have written, I'm sorry, you can always start by saying that in reference to the above, I would like to state that, and you can simply start with that. That can be, again, a very safe and a very clear way of starting. Or you can begin with a line of thanks. This generally tends to put the other person at ease, and they're also much more open to what you're going to say after it. So this also helps a lot. So you can sometimes say something like, thank you for contacting, and then you give your team details, or thank you for your prompt response in this particular subject. And I would like to, then you can start your email on that. So these are the two ways you can see when you are opening the email, when you start the body of an email. Okay. Now we come to the main part, that is the content. So obviously, when we had first spoken of in our earlier slide, like, why are you writing this email? This is where the entire things now come to. Okay, that you have to now understand that you are now coming down to business. That this is why I have written this particular mail, and this is the reason why this email is coming to you. So in the first 1 to 3 lines of an email, specify what it is all about. Okay. So these are the 3 questions that you can keep in mind when you are composing the body. Does it include the action required? Does it require a reply back by a certain date or a certain time? Sometimes if it is that urgent, what information is contained that the reader will find it necessary for the job? Okay. So these are the 3 broad area that you can concentrate on when you are composing the body of an email. And this helps you decide how the flow can be. Now, obviously, we don't expect emails to be very long. Nobody has the time and even the tendency to read long emails anymore. Okay. If there are extra information or something that has to go, it are generally sent as an attachment so that the person can read at his or her leisure and whenever that person has time. But the main body, the main content is generally done maximum 2 paragraphs. It doesn't actually go more than that. Okay, 2 paragraphs is still on the higher side. I'm just talking of a case scenario wherein there's something that you have to talk about. Okay, at best keep it within a paragraph and learning to end it properly within the paragraph. You try and incorporate whatever that you are talking about. Okay, so let's say if you're talking about a meeting that needs to be rescheduled for some reason, then your body now should talk about that in reference to the reschedule of this particular meeting. You give that you need it to be rescheduled from this time to this time. You give the reason for that. Who are the persons maybe who need to be informed about the change, and what will and how this is supposed to happen. Maybe you give an instruction on that and how this can happen, or maybe depending again what is it that you want from the other person. So if the action, whatever action you expect the other person to take. So just giving you an example offhand that this is what the content should look like. So maybe this 3 broad categories should help you decide on that. Moving on. So now I come to the attachment. So as I was mentioning in my earlier slide that if there's some extra information or something that is, very, very something that goes as a lengthier part of the information that you are putting as an attachment. Okay, let's say it can be a presentation that you need an approval for, or you need a plan that you need an approval for, a marketing plan that you have made. Okay, anything of that sort. This is where the attachment comes into play. Just give me a second. I am receiving a lot of chats. Okay, sorry. So what the name of the file is, what program is it saved in, and the version of the program. Sometimes it is very important to tell the other person, please don't take it for granted that whatever version of Office or whatever version of, let's say, PowerPoint you might have, the recipient might also have the same. Okay. See, you can take these things for granted if you're working in the same environment, if you're working in the same office. In those cases, maybe you can take these for granted. That's fine, no issues. But not when you are sending a mail for the first time or to a customer or to a prospective client. It is always best not to take these informations for granted and better to explain that this is the extension, this is the version, so that in case the other person doesn't have it, you know that, and the other person knows that this is the version that he or she will require before this particular attachment can be opened. So this also talks about a lot of clarity, it gives a lot of clarity uh, to the other person, and also it tells about you, that how meticulous you are when you are sending out an information. So speaks a lot about you as well. So that's positive marks for you. Please compress large attachments and send in an archive file. Do not, it will be too big to send, it will be too big to open and download and keep. So try and zip it up or do some, or one of the versions. And please do have a good virus scanner in place. Okay, again, let us not confuse it with if you're working in an office and everything is uploaded and fitted within virus, good antivirus and stuff. Let's say you are applying for a job from your personal computer and you weren't aware because you keep downloading so much stuff from the internet. Maybe your antivirus wasn't in place or it wasn't good enough and something escaped. Now, if the other person ever gets and sees a virus infected file, you can just imagine the kind of image you are going to have in front of the other person. So this is something that looks as if, oh, everybody takes care of it. But this is not something that you need a reminder of. But believe me, this has happened a lot of times, so that I have put this as a part of the presentation, that be always clear that you should have a good antivirus in place, and that your mail should be scanned before you send it to somebody who might have to download it and might get a virus because of this. And please always send an attachment only when it is absolutely necessary. Do not unnecessarily send attachments. So, for example, if you are replying on a particular subject and that message had a lot of attachments, so be clear whether or not that attachment is necessary. Sometimes it is necessary because you might be drawing reference from one of the things over there. So in that case, it's perfectly understood. But if that is not necessary, you are simply drawing reference and the reference can be done by writing in one line what it was all about. Please get rid of the attachment before you put your own attachment to it. Okay? A lot of people forget that. You have made a change in the attachment and you've attached it again, and then you have forgotten to take away the earlier attachment. So now the file gets very heavy, and it might sometimes be even confusing for the other person who has received it, that which is the original file sometimes. Okay, so let's not even go there. Let's keep communication as clear, as simple, and as pithy as possible. That's the entire reason why communication plays such an important part, right? Moving on. Now we come to the closing of the email. Now, in a business world, the ending of an email professionally is just as important as perfecting the rest of the message. Okay, you've written a great message, but you just end it in a very sloppy manner or in a very abrupt manner. It again leaves a bad taste. It doesn't create a good impression about you as a person. Okay, courtesy is always important, no matter how short the email is. And be careful again to the kind of person that you're writing to, because the closing statements will have to take care of that particular aspect as well. Who was it that you were writing to? Was it a superior? Was it to a client? Was it to a business associate? Was it to a peer? All of these things make a difference to the way you would end or the closing line would come across. Okay. Now, before I speak more about this, let me quickly put in a word about when you are composing a mail. One thing that gets or people don't always realize is the tone of your message. Okay, the way you are writing, the words that you are using. Okay, so sometimes people don't realize, but you can come across as somebody who's very terse or very harsh, depending on the kind of words that you are using. Okay. So always try and see that your tone remains courteous and your tone remains something that is friendly, or if it's not friendly, it remains approachable, somebody who can come across as someone who's approachable and a professional. Okay. So try and always avoid using negative words like failure or neglected, you know, and never forget to write please and thank you. Even when you're writing it, please and thank you plays a very important role always, not in only in verbal communication, in written communication as well, it plays a part. So try and avoid negatively connoted words. Try and use very positive word like confident, you know, something that you can put your faith in. So use these kind of words wherein creates a very positively oriented aura about you as a person. So this goes a long way again in creating the right vibes with the person who's reading it. So the tone becomes very important. That's why I've included the line of courtesy over here. So even if it is a 3-line email, please make sure that you remain courteous till the end whenever you're closing. So you can have some sentences. I've given some example when you're closing. I look forward to receiving your input, or if you have some questions and concerns, do let me know. I look forward to hearing from you. And something that always works is please let me know if you need further assistance on this. So this is something that always works. This is something that is very commonly found across most uh, business emails, or let's say formal emails across the world. And this ought to help you in giving you the right closing texture. But do not ever uh, you know, think that this is not important. Please don't think that you can avoid this. You cannot. If you've written a great email, it also includes a great closing part as well. So please pay attention to this. Now, these are some email types, and we have given you, let's say, some idea as to how to close properly, close nicely. So if it's a professional email closing, we use words like best regards, sincerely, or thank you. If it is little more professional, formal email closing, which is like, let's say something almost to a governmental job level, or let's say somebody who's pretty higher up in the chain. Okay, so therein you need to be very, very formal about it. So you use yours sincerely or yours faithfully. And if it is something casual, which at this point maybe you won't need, but later on when you're working, you can use this as much. You know the client very well, or if it's a peer that you are writing to, and you can say best wishes or even cheers. Like Americans tend not to have any formality at all. They are very, very informal, and they don't really care about how you, the salutations and the way you're closing it. They are very casual about it as long as the information that the email should contain is there and what they wanted from you. The work is there. The work has been done, or the work can be done or has been done. But again, if you look at the other side, people in UK, or the professionals in UK, they are again very little strict about these things. They do not like a casual attitude, and they prefer a formal salutation and a formal closing as well. So there are variations as well, okay, in this. But frankly, mostly in India, Southeast Asia, UK, the formality part is more than the casual part of it. So if you are, as I said, one of the starters, it is best to be safe than be sorry. Moving on. Now, these are some very, very important points which I put in last minute checks. Okay. This is where things can go terribly wrong at times. Okay. So before you send, please review these things. First of all, read it as if you were an outsider. If you have written the mail, but let's say somebody who's an outsider, if that person were to read the mail or read your email, how clear is it? Does it give out exactly what it is supposed to give out? Does it clarify what is it that you want from the other person? So completely see it from a neutral point of view, from somebody who's not invested in that email. So how would that person feel when that person reads your email? That would give you a very clear idea whether or not you have been able to deliver the message effectively. Are you bumbling? Are you rumbling about? Are you using too many words? Are you being too harsh? All those things will then come into play. So please remember this, edit and proofread. Okay, these are not small things. because if you miss up on this, your recipient might think that you are very careless or unqualified or totally unprofessional because you do not know how how to spell, let's say, this particular word or that particular word. And if somebody doesn't know that, how should I trust that person? So that's a very common. I mean, I think if you received something of that sort, I think that's how you would feel. Uh, it's the same thing as if you go to a restaurant and you find that it's not really clean, or they're not serving you water in a clean bottle, or they don't have certain options, and you form an opinion about that. The same thing is over here. Okay, so make sure that you edit and proofread everything before you hit the send mark. Okay, review and spell check. Always review and spell check. So that, see, one issue that I believe has cropped up a lot in these times is that because most of you tend to write in shorthand now, because you SMS a lot or text a lot. A lot of shorthands that has now gone into play. Frankly, someone from my generation would find it pretty hard to even understand half the messages that most of you guys possibly send to each other. And because of that, the sentence formation has taken a hit. Okay, you don't always realize whether it has an OUS or am I supposed to put a double L or what. But these things in a formal atmosphere makes a lot. Imagine sending that to somebody in the UK. Okay, so where the grammar and everything is followed pretty strictly. Okay. So there you will understand the difference that would create. Even somebody in the hierarchy in a big company, and imagine sending it with 2 or 3 bad spellings or wrong spellings in your email. And because you are not used to it, I would always suggest that you take accurate measures before you send across anything of that sort. Your tenses should be in place, your spelling should be in place, and most importantly, your tonal quality is something that you should always be very careful about. Okay. Now, when you are replying, if in any case, this is a particular situation that I'm talking of, sorry, are you going to reply to all? Do you need to reply to all? Because sometimes this can make a mess. Okay, whether if somebody did need to be kept in loop about that particular subject, then it's first of all, it can be a breach. And secondly, if again, if the other person they need to know about this particular thing, then you are only spamming for that person. So be very clear whether you just need to reply or to reply all. So this is something you need to decide. Sometimes we blindly just press reply all, which is very wrong. And another situation that can sometimes happen over here is that because phones, if you're using phones and stuff, and it's very sensitive to your touch, be very careful before you touch a button or something. If your email is not proofread or if it's only incomplete and you by chance touch a button, then you might send a message to everyone and you have to keep on apologizing for the rest of your day as to, sorry, I sent half a message or a wrong message to you or something of that sort. So this is again a matter of concern in a business concern, in a business atmosphere. So please be very careful before you do something of this sort. Okay. Now the timeline of an email, if you are on the other side, if you have received an email, so what is it that is expected out of you as a part of the email etiquette? Okay. So generally it's understood that each email should be replied within at least 24 hours and preferably within the same working day. That's the reason why somebody would write you a mail. And if the email is complicated, then you can always send an email saying that you have received it and you will get back to them. What this happens is that at least you've acknowledged that you've received it and you're working on it, keeps the other person happy and satisfied, and knows not to expect an answer within, let's say, 24 hours or 48 hours, because you've said you'll get back to them within some time. So that also talks about professional courtesy and the right kind of etiquette to follow in this case. And respond to a message only if it requires one. Again, if you are a part of a lot of, let's say, a group, and then you've received a message, then until unless if there's an action required from your side, if you cannot add value by replying to the message, then please do not do it. It's not something that's appreciated as well. Reply only when it is required out of you. Okay. Now, there are some privacy issues that are important as far as emails go. Okay. So it is always important to keep these in mind as well. First of all, email is not and never has been private. Once you send an email, the recipient can and will do whatever they want to do with it. So when you commit something on paper, we always say that, right? When you commit something on paper, when you commit something on the mail, please be very clear about the information that you are giving out, the reasons for giving out that information, and to whom is it that you are sharing it with. So be very clear about it, and always know that that whatever you are writing can be used by the person receiving it in any manner that the person chooses to. So please keep that and always bear that in mind when you are sending an email and whatever information. If you can help it, never email confidential information either. Okay. Uh, if it is confidential, information you have emailed it, then it becomes a public email. I mean, anybody can access it. Okay, anybody can get hold of that information. Doesn't remain confidential anymore. So if it is a company confidential information, be very, very clear why you are sending it. Why do you require to send it on an email? Generally not supported. Generally no. Even people, your mentors or your bosses will always tell you not to do that. Okay, until unless it's something that is very important, which I doubt. As with private information, you do not need to send confidential information. There are some locked formats, encrypted formats, which possibly can be used by, and it is used by business concerns around the world. Now, these things happen within a business-to-business concern. Like if you're sending some sensitive data to another department, then obviously, once you'll realize once you start working for the big corporation, your laptops are always encrypted. Your data is always encrypted. You really can't use that laptop for any other purpose except to send official or use for official purpose. So that helps in, keeping these confidential informations absolutely confidential. Even by mistake, you cannot exchange this information with anyone. So breach of security doesn't happen in these cases. So that is what most companies do as well. But this is something that you should know about. Okay, and your corporate email you should never use for any other purpose except exchanging corporate information. Never use it for personal stuff. This is totally unprofessional and can actually come back to haunt you later. It has happened with a lot of people. As I said, one of my friends in US, he shared a few hilarious situations. He is in privacy control in a particular HR department, and he actually goes through all the emails that are interdepartmental sent between departments. And he says that I'm astounded by the kind of personal stuff people actually send each other through official emails, knowing without realizing that it actually goes through these desks, people who are into privacy controls and security measures. And we say that it's hilarious that people don't realize it and that can actually be used as action against them. So do not make this mistake at all. Corporate email is not private, it is archived, it is monitored, and most have rules against it. As I just gave an example of my friend who works in this particular department. And please use a BCC or mail merge function to protect the privacy of your contacts. This is sometimes important that you don't want the contacts in one particular person to know about the other contacts that you have. So you can use these two facilities. As I said, BCC is very sparingly used only in certain cases wherein you don't want to divulge the identity of the other person that you use this particular feature. So use it wisely when you're using it. Now some absolute do's and don'ts. Okay, let's look at the do's. First of all, please be concise and to the point. Do not rumble. Do not go on and on and on about something. If you are talking about something, please know why did you send that information and be very clear on it. Address all the questions or concerns to avoid delays. If specific inquiry has been asked of you, please reply the same serial order if possible. Let's say there were 1, 2, 3 queries one by one. It is always advisable that you answer back in the same format. First, addressing the first query, I would like to answer, or I would like to say that, and this is the action that I would prefer taking, and then second, and then third. Okay. Always use proper spelling, grammar, and punctuation. This is very important. The right full stops. If you're using a colon and a semicolon, please make sure that you know the difference between using a colon and a semicolon. They are not interchangeable. They cannot be used interchangeably. Exclamation marks. Be careful. when you are using it, because it does give out a tonal quality when you use an exclamation mark. Use proper spelling and grammar, which again is very important. Use a font that has a professional or neutral look. Okay, generally Arial or Times New Roman, these are accepted formats. Use something that is formal. Okay, do not use something that is very flashy or jazzy. See, marketing emails, if you're sending out a marketing email and you might need to put something, that's a different ballgame. We are not discussing that. The idea of that particular email is different. Okay, we're discussing about a business transaction or a business email or a formal email that we're talking. Therein, these kind of things don't come into play at all. Provide all supporting information that will help the recipient complete an action or response successfully. Keep the language general neutral. Okay, you can always use the user should add a it really helps in facilitating communication better if you can keep it as gender neutral as possible. Okay, use a proper structure and layout. Use short paragraphs and always make sure that if there are more than, let's say you've kept 2-3 lines paragraph only, there are not many lines, or maybe there's a 1-2-3 thing going on. Make sure that you have blank spaces in between so that people know that okay, this is where it's ending and the next one is starting. Sometimes we don't get that. Your paragraph ends at a pretty later stage in the line and the next paragraph almost starts immediately. Sometimes people are unable to make out that where the information ended and the other information started. So this is where the structure of the email comes into play. And write about one thing, stick to it. Do not dilute your message by putting in too much of information about some other things or maybe surrounding that particular thing. It takes away the importance of the subject that you are talking about. So don't dilute your message. Stick to one thing. Okay, so do not copy a message or attachment without permission. Please don't do that. You need to have the required permission of it. And please don't talk about confidential matters on in an email. Please don't do that. And don't overuse the high priority function because until unless it's really something that's important, don't overuse it because people will stop taking you seriously about it. One very important thing is please do not respond if you are upset. Okay, let's say you have received a mail which is not or doesn't really speak a lot of good stuff about you, and you are angry or you are feeling you're not really feeling the best of feeling very good about it. Best is please stop before responding. Okay, do not immediately make or dash off a reply because you are not in that frame of mind wherein possibly you are keeping the courtesy alive, or maybe you're saying something in anger which might come back and really hurt you later. Okay, so take some time and then you think of considering or giving an appropriate reply the way you would want to. So do not ever reply in anger. We see that in normal life also, that if you're very, very angry, it's best to keep shut, right? Do not come out and say whatever is there inside your head because you might come to regret it later. So let's not do that. Okay. Do not forget to attach documents. If you plan to attach a document, do it as soon as you refer to it. Sometimes this also creates a very bad impression and you forget it. You hit send and you realize, oh God, I did not attach the document. So if whenever the moment you said that you are going to attach it, I, on the contrary, always do the opposite. I attach it first and then I start writing my mail because under no circumstances I ever take a chance that I have not done it. This is my way of doing it. You might not need to do that. You can always do it later, but make sure that you attach it. If you've said that I'm sending an attachment, please make sure that you do attach. You don't forget it. Do not attach unnecessary files. Again, as I said, if there is a reply thing happening and if there's a chain of messages or attachment that's going with it, please take away the one that is not necessary and send only what is necessary. Do not use long sentences. A strict no in any email composition. Not allowed. Okay. And please do not use abbreviations and shorthands. I know most of you are very, very used to it because you constantly use that in your WhatsApps and your SMSs maybe, but not appreciated at all in a formal business letter. So BTW, please don't use that. So please, and PLS, I think you right now, please don't use these things at all. Please avoid them. So please know that your email is a reflection of you. Every email that you send, uh, it either adds or detracts from the kind of person that you are. If your email is scattered, disorganized, and filled with mistakes, the recipient will also feel the same way about you. That person might feel that you are scattered, careless, and disorganized business person. These opinions go a long way in creating the right business atmosphere for you. So please take cognizance of this fact. Understand that the way you write, the way you send your communication, the way you write, and typically written communication is a huge reflection of you as a person, the kind of business ethics, the kind of courtesy, the kind of etiquettes that you carry with you. Uh, it's a reflection of who you are and who possibly you will be in future as well. So this is what makes keeping the right frame, understanding the right tone, the courtesies, everything involved in an email very important. Okay, this perception that the other person has of you is going to be critical of your success in life. So whether you're applying for a job, whether you are asking for something, the way the other person perceives you after reading your email is going to decide whether or not it's going to be a success or a failure for you. That is how important those things have become now. So it's always advisable that you take notice and you constantly strive to better yourself in these communications, something that is going to go a long way in paving your road to success. Okay. So I think that's about all about everything from my side. And this is my email ID in case somebody has anything or any kind of query that you'd like to ask me. You can always reach me at this. I will now take questions, and I think yeah, I can go open my chat box, I think, and then you can write in, type in your questions, and I can then maybe answer. Is that
Yes,
how we
ma'am.
do it, Mr. Kayal?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for this very nice
I
presentation.
think questions are being posted on the Q&A box, not the
Yes,
chat
yes, sir.
box.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to open that. Thank you, sir. I'm going to open that. Oh my God, the first question is a technical question, which I am not somebody who's very comfortable answering. How to make large attachments to a minimum size? There are a lot of, see, I know about Zip because I have that uh, application in my laptop. So I know how to use that. Generally, what I do is, Anik is asking, can you, in PDF format he wants. Anik, I'm really sorry. I'm not a technical professional. So this is not something that I am very comfortable answering. I'm sure if there's somebody here who knows this
I
answer.
think our tech support might be able to give a clue.
Yeah, if somebody can please answer this gentleman because I really can't.
Mr. Prem Kumar?
PDF,
Yes,
how do
sir.
you, he's
Yes,
asking
please.
this.
Look at the Q&A and the technical things, if you could.
I'm really sorry, I can't do this.
Sir, for first question, how to make the large attachment to minimum size, no?
Yes.
So
In
for
PDF
that,
format, this is a specific question.
acha, in PDF format. So for
Yeah.
that purpose, on the document Word file, there is option save as.
Mm.
In that save as, we can choose that in PDF format. Otherwise, we can use the extension file name .pdf. And
Okay.
when we save it, then it will be automatically converted into PDF format.
Oh, it gets
Otherwise,
automatic. This is a new information for me as well. Okay.
yes. And one more thing is there that we can go for online conversion. There is online software tools that can be used to convert the Word document to PDF document. There are online software also available in Google. If we search online Word to PDF, then we will find many websites that converts. We have to just upload and we have to download.
Acha, Mr. Prem Kumar, one more
Yes, sir.
question. Can we password protect doc file or .pdf format?
Yes, sir. We can password protect it in the option.
Okay.
When we open it in Adobe Reader, then we
Okay.
have the menu choice, and in that option is given that password protect the document. For
Okay.
that, we can use the password protect. Otherwise, we can just go to the folder where we have kept the file, and
Yes.
we can right click it, and we can use read only format, or you can lock there, sir, with some
Okay.
keyword.
Okay. So I mean, let us say I have some sort of an ordinary kind of a system, and there I choose the file and I can password protect it, right? Or put
Yes, sir, you have to just right click,
okay,
and you have to go to the encryption.
encryption. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All
Okay,
right.
the next
Thank you.
question is someone who's posted over here is this is a nice question. I think Payal has posted this. Ma'am, you said not to respond everyone, but how to decide whom to reply. See, this is something that is a decision that you will take as a business person, right? As a professional. So you would obviously know whom is it that you are required to give a reply to. So the question over here is whether I reply only to that person and or to everyone who's there in the loop. So if you need to keep people in the loop, you use a reply all. If you do not need to keep people in a loop, you simply give that information to the person who is send you, the primary sender of the email. So you only reply to that person. So that is how you decide that. I hope this was clear to you, Payal. Ananya, your question is how to create a proper CV. Beta, that is not a part of my presentation today. So I'm
That is
sorry, I
already
won't be able
explained
to
in
answer
the
this.
previous sessions.
Yeah, please put this up with your cell, and I'm sure
Yeah.
they will help you out.
Yeah.
Or Vidisha has asked me, long message of professional purpose. Yes, Vidisha, it does create a very bad impression of you as a person because it tends to say that you are not you're not clear as to what is it that you want to say, and that is why you require so many words. So preciseness is very important. Okay. uh, I never side with, even in answers. I'm sure when you were talking about your GDs and PIs, it is never about long sentences. It is about the preciseness of your answer that is important. So please remember that. I hope this was clear.
Ma'am, we
Next.
have some questions
Yeah.
in the mailbox. We have received some questions in the mailbox. I'm taking
Okay.
one from the.
Acha,
I'm taking one question
Mr.
from the
Koya,
mail.
let the
Yes,
Q and A be handled, and then you go
okay,
for that.
okay, okay,
Okay,
sir. Okay, sir.
madam, please continue.
Is it okay? Can I continue?
Yes,
Yes,
please.
ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
please.
ma'am.
Okay. Jayaprakash has asked, is it necessary to mention date in email writing anywhere particularly? Not really, because as it is, your emails are dated. Like it is automatically dated. So it is not really required. And this has become pretty accepted format now. So until unless there's any specific requirement from the other person's side that you date, I mean, no, because it automatically is dated when it goes over there. So you don't require to. Bullets, yes, Shubhanu, you can use bullets. On the contrary, these are always preferable if there's a list of things that you, or list of information that is either you are asking for or giving out. It always helps to keep them because you can even highlight what is more important, and that way it creates the right picture and also gives out the necessary information very clearly. So I always support it. Anik is giving me questions in 3-4 lines. Let me see. If I hold an business and I have to,
The question is not
I can't
clearly.
understand this question. If somebody
The
can read it,
question is a little
yeah. I'll move
tricky.
on to the next one. And Anik, I would appreciate if you could put that entire thing in one line, because frankly, beta, अगर आप ऐसे लिख रहे हो थोड़ा मुश्किल है. Please
Or
write the
you
entire
can
thing in
raise
one
your
line.
hand and you can ask the question
Yeah,
verbally.
even that we can do. I'll move on to Ananya. If you're going to apply for a job, Ananya, you can simply write the name of the profile that you're applying for and your name along with it. That you can put that in your subject line. So it'll be very easy for the person, the HR head, to know what is it that you the email is for. Okay. I'm Shrija Chakravarti. What is the common size limit? See, there's no size limit per se, but obviously I always try and feel that if it is something that's not a part of discussion, if you're not really discussing anything, then it should be done within, let's say, less than 100 words. Okay, 70 to 80 is my limit. I like writing within that. 100 is the upper limit. I don't think I want to write any more than that. Okay, I hope this was okay. I think here we are more or less done with, okay, Anik has written, if I hold a business and you hold our business, Anik, and how can I message to my customer as greetings and away message? Not sure I understand exactly what he wants from me. You can simply start by saying greetings from, and maybe your
I think
company's name.
what he wants to know, let us say
Yes.
for Christmas greetings and all that, if
Oh,
it could be programmed and automatically it is going to be dispatched at certain date and
Anik,
time.
these are completely technical matters.
This
So,
I think once again Mr. Prem Kumar can throw light on it.
yeah, these are technical matters. So
Yes.
this is not something. Is somebody answering? Or should I move on to the next one?
Just a second, madam. Prem Kumar,
Sure, sure, sure.
can you suggest how to send automatically at from a specific date?
Yes, sir. So for that, there is some additional softwares that track on the reminders.
Okay.
So that is on the Google Calendar that it will automatically send
Yeah.
the
So Mr.
messages.
Anik Chakraborty has to basically do some due diligence on the Google system, and you would be able to find it. Okay.
Yes.
If you fail to do so, please feel free to email us the numbers that you have, and we would help again.
Okay, I'll move on to the next question then.
Yes, sure.
Okay. Nilashish is asking me actually how can I differentiate between a letter and an email? I think the best part is that if you receive a letter, please preserve it because I have not received one in the last 30 years.
Yeah.
So please preserve it and please feel very appreciated that somebody has actually taken the pains of writing and handwritten letter to you. So that is out of this world experience, believe me. And you will immediately know the difference between getting a letter. A letter is personal now. You don't get business letters anymore until unless it's from your bank. And you know that immediately how a letter from a bank looks like. So if you're receiving a card or some information or some season's greetings, generally you receive a business letter from them. That's very sparingly done because frankly, every time you use paper, you are actually cutting down more trees. So not something that we want to support at this point of time. And a mail is otherwise, if you're asking me regarding the formality of writing a letter and an email, there's not much at all. Whatever formality you follow in an email, the same formality you follow in a letter if you're talking about a business letter. This is what I would like to say. I hope I was clear. Gmail or Yahoo Mail, which is better? I have used both and I find both of them equally good. Gmail I use more, that's all. But I have no preferences whatsoever between these two companies. So Gmail is more proficiently used everywhere. So maybe I think it has got little more features than Yahoo. I'm not very clear about it, but I think so. How can I send an email more than one person at once? You simply keep on adding CCs to them. That's all. Somebody is asking, how do I operate Gmail Meet? Again, somebody from your side has to answer. I'm very sorry.
You see, they have a sense of humor, madam. You
Acha.
initially indicated that you are not much of a techie, I guess.
Yeah. But what's the point of doing it? I mean, you really can't bully me anymore. I'm too old.
Sir, at the same time, Mr. Prem Kumar is answering those questions very nicely. Maybe that's the reason as well.
So they're using it both as, taking the soft skill and the hard skill out from here.
we will conduct a session on all those things a separate time.
I think so. You need it because so many questions are coming.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
okay, can we move on to some questions from that you said where?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. The question that I'm taking from the mailbox, someone is asking, what is the right way to mention more than one attachments in the mail?
Oh, the best way to do it is to put a list at the end, and please note that we write at the end when we are ending our emails and sending these are the attachments and their names along with it. So let's say you have got 4 attachments. So 1, 2, 3, 4. What is the first, second? Always listed. It is done even when it's one, not just for one, maybe for 2 or more attachments. You should always do it. It is a required etiquette from our side.
Yeah. Thank you, ma'am. The next question. For a job application, how should I frame the covering letter in the email?
As I said, you start in that subject line by talking about the job position and your name along with it, so that the person knows exactly what it is all about and whom is it from. You start by saying that good morning, whoever that was, whether the name of the person, the hiring manager or the hiring person. Okay. I generally do not like writing hello sir oblique madam. This creates a little, from my side, it is not an advice that I give. A lot of people do it. It looks very generic, as if you don't mean what you are saying. So I would prefer you take a little pain to find out the name or at least whether the gender of it, so that you know whom you're applying. And then you go on to talk about, in reference to the above, I would like to put in my candidature for the above mentioned post. Then you go on to talk about your qualification, what would you bring to the table, and how do you think your contribution might make a difference to the company. And then you close it with a very nice line, looking forward to meeting you in person and discussing this more, something of this sort. And then you put in your name. So this should be enough.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question: how to put the salutation and greetings in different types of emails, like good news or bad news email, in official communication? Yes.
I doubt you will need to put in a bad news in a official communication. That will be long years before you come to that position where you, and God forbid that you have to do it ever. Good news, you can always start by saying that greetings, season's greetings, or let's say here's cheers to something that you are, like, we are talking about, let's say, a bonus that the company has decided to give, and how much we would all love to hear that word, everyone. And then you talk about, let's say, some kind of activity that's been planned by HR for let's say an outing or a party or something of that sort. So you can start by saying that here's a good news to share or something, and you can start directly by that. But because see, this will never happen generally in a formal atmosphere. Generally, if something of this sort is being discussed, it would be within the community, within the company itself. So here the structure is little less formal than otherwise. So you can start by hello everyone if you're talking to a lot of people. Let's say you are sending this mail to 45 in the group. So greetings everyone, you can start by something of that sort. And now coming to bad news, frankly, I don't think you can talk to everybody. It is always one-to-one. And therein, it's a very somber starting and a very somber stated message, obviously. It's very, very somber and it is very subtle. The tone is very soft, even when you're delivering, obviously because you're delivering a bad news. I do hope to God you never have to.
Yeah. One last question from the mailbox, ma'am.
Yes.
How to put the subscription and submission in the mail in a proper and official way?
I did not understand.
Subscription and submission.
Oh, so if it is subscription and submission, I think this person is talking about as far as the college etiquettes go, because in a business thing, this is generally, you simply send in, if you're sending a submission, an attachment that goes with it. See, it is all about the way you format your email, like the way you are writing it. So you would simply talk about what was the project all about and the submission that you had to put in, and you list out what you have, you are attaching as, and you send in the application. And the subject line, you put the submission for dated so and so, or the subject, what is the submission subject all about. You write that in the subject line, and you explain that in the body as well. That is how you do it.
That's all from the mailbox, ma'am.
Okay.
Some more other question in the question and answer box.
Okay, I don't know how to go there. Can somebody open it for me, please? Or should I go back to my screen share? Oh, I got it. Wait.
Q&A section, ma'am.
I got it.
Yeah.
Wait. I think I missed some question. I don't know what Anik is asking me. Anik is asking me, tell me, ma'am, any 2 question answers. I don't know what he's asking me.
We will let us skip that, madam. Okay. We will later on, Anik, please send us email to the email address, and we will clarify your questions.
Shubhanu is asking me if I'm submitting an assignment via email to the department, do I have to mention my name in the subject section? I always prefer doing it because I'm sure in your department, if there are more than 100 students, or let's say 120 students is generally the intake, that I think 60 to 120 students is a general intake in any department now. It always helps for the professor to keep a recall, sometimes that stays, even if let's say he or she, the professor did not have time to open that email, but at least has seen that you have sent it, it keeps a top of the mind recall. So I prefer doing it. As I said, it is always good to be safer than taking a call on it. It is not necessary, but I would prefer if you did that. Can you show some real type examples of email to corporate company? No, Abhishek, I really can't because all emails differ from person to person. Like it depends on what department you are writing for what purpose you are writing an email for. So you can always get any kind of example on Google if you want. So if you need that. I don't think there's anything else. Is that okay,
Yes,
Mr. Kayal?
I think
I
that is
think
all,
that's
ma'am. That's all.
Okay. Okay.
That's all.
So thank you so much, everyone. This was wonderful being a part of this session. I hope
Yes.
I've been able to help you in some way. And if there's any further clarification needed, please don't hesitate to reach out. I would
Yes.
love to talk about it.
Yes, ma'am. Now we are almost at the end of the today's session. Before we come to the closing remarks, I would like to request our technical team, Mr. Prem Kumar, please provide us with the information regarding the feedback and the certificate links. Mr. Prem Kumar, please.
Yes, sir. We will be displaying all the links and we will post all the links in the chat box.
Okay.
And we will having the feedback form and a few questions for the quiz. And
Yeah.
after giving the quiz and feedback, it will be open for half an hour. And after that, 2 hours, we will be issuing the e-certificate for this session.
Okay.
So after
So,
your concluding remarks, sir, we will be sir, displaying the link, sir. So please.
okay, Mr. Prem Kumar.
So
Thank
when
you,
you
sir.
give the permission, we will show that, sir.
Okay. Now I would go straightly to Dr. Anandarup Sarangi sir. Before that, I will request Shukendra Samadar sir to put any closing remarks from his side. Please, sir.
Thank you. It was an instructive session. And I really appreciate Madam emphasizing some of the timeless values, such as clarity. Clear thought manifests as clear writing. So it is exceedingly important on the part of the participants to always be on the watch that whether we are thinking clearly or not. So please be on the guard. Try to observe your feelings and your thoughts. If they are clear, they will precipitate as clear writing on paper or on the screen. The other thing you mentioned was taking care. In this age of convenience and rush, we are always rushed. We do not take time. So it is exceedingly important that we take care to see what we are writing. What if I enjoy my writing, then most likely the other party is going to enjoy it as well. So be careful and be caring as well. And the point that you had mentioned, I would advise that you said that it is an option, but please attach the attachment first. That is basically guaranteeing you or insuring you from making a mistake. It is an insurance against making a mistake. Finally, you pointed about something which is very important, that it is better to be safe than sorry. I call it being conservative. Being dressed and expressing yourself conservatively is never going to hurt. It is not a community that is going to laugh at you for being nerdy. It is better to be conservative than you can always explain in a later stage, just a flash of how modern you are. But if it is always good to go with the assumption that the community is conservative. There are there were a few questions about, or several times you underscored about being grammatically correct. Gmail has its own grammar check nowadays. However, if you are not using Gmail, there is a free, or whatever those are called, open source version available of a software called Grammarly, Grammarly. It can do grammar check for your the resident software in your, like the Microsoft Word and all that, and at the same time on of your email as well. So these are the points, and I would like to end with a note of appreciation for your explaining the lines, like the two line, the CC line, the BCC line. For me, how I use BCC is I BCC myself.
Yes.
Because the sent file is somewhere. Now I can organize my mails by using a BCC that comes to me, and I put it in the right box. You know, Gmail, it has, you can categorize it and all those we can, those of the participants, if they would like to know, we would be able to help. There are ways you can, whatever those are called, label the emails in different, in a nested fashion. However, let me point out a real story. It is a real story. It is a real, I mean, it's an oxymoron if I call it a real story, but it is a real story. About 2.5 months ago, I received an email from a student. And when I opened it, the body was blank. And then I happened to have his WhatsApp number. I said, I received a mail from you, but the body is blank. And then there promptly came the response that, no, sir, I just checked and I wrote everything. And then I'm sending you again, sir. I'm resending you. I said, okay. It comes. And again, I find the body blank. And this time I check a little bit carefully, like Bomkesh. And I find that the entire email has been written on the subject line.
Oh my God.
This is, I mean, I could have, but it would be breach of privacy or breaking confidentiality to share this. But it was a 47-word email written completely on the subject line. So the importance of clarifying these things which might apparently sound trivial, it cannot be overstated. And then this incident got me thinking that, my goodness, I was taking several things for granted. It was naturally. Then I realized I really didn't learn. I was not bored with it. Somehow from my upbringing and the ambience, I learned. And it is important that we have sessions which interested students can attend and learn the skills, and they don't really have to grapple in darkness to learn. So this has been a session which has exposed the students to, in a coherent fashion, how to write effective emails. And on behalf of the university, I thank Cubics and I thank you, Sudeshnam Chakraborty Madam, with the depth, from the depth of my heart. Thank you.
It was a pleasure, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Dr. Anandarup Sarangi, Training and Placement Officer, MAKAUT.
Can I just interrupt for a second? For all the participants, please take the homework thing seriously, because what it is going to do, that when you send the homework, we are going to check it and give you feedback as to where you have done it very well and where you need to make improvements. So it is not just to make your life difficult, but it is designed to make your life better.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, Sarangi sir, Dr. Anandarup Sarangi, Training and Placement Officer, MAKAUT West Bengal. Please say the vote of thanks. of today's session.
Hello, good afternoon to all the panelists, and a special thanks to Sudeshna Madam for this wonderful session she has delivered to the students as well as for us, all of us. All thanks to Sukhendu sir for all the suggestions and for great coordination from both Sushanto and Shashwato. And it is the first of a kind joint session with Cubics, and we have had a very good session. I also lastly have to thank Mr. Subhash Mishra who has arranged the session for us, joint session for us. So, with thanking all the panelists and thanking all the students, I put an end to the session.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, sir.
Thank you,
Now,
sir.
Mr. Prem Kumar, please do the formalities with the feedback and the certificate links.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So, with your permission, we are announcing a small notification that there is a homework given by our team now, just now, that they have to send the mail having the task given, and the time is up to 3 p.m. na sir, Saturday.
Yes. Saturday up
Mr.
to 3
Kumar,
p.m.
up to 3 p.m.
Yes, sir. So we are displaying all the details, sir.
And
So is
Mr.
it
Prem
visible,
Kumar,
sir?
yes, it is visible. And if you can please put the links in the chat box so that everyone can copy directly from the chat box.
Yes, sir.
Copy the links directly from the chat box.
For all participants, please take note of the link, the quiz link, the feedback link, and e-certificate link, and the mail ID from where you will be sending your task, and the YouTube link for this session video. So please note down the link. We will be the closing session in within 1 to 2 minutes.
Yeah. We'll wait for 2 minutes to note down
Yes,
the
sir.
link.
We are holding for 2
Then
minutes.
we'll end the session. Okay. Thank you, Anandrup Sarangi sir. Thank you, Shashwato.
Thank you,
Samasdar
Anand sir. Thank you, Professor Shamasdar sir. Thank you, Shushanto.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Chakraborty.
And a big thanks to Mr. Prem Kumar as well.
Yes, definitely, Mr. Prem Kumar.
For giving us the proper support.
Yes, and for giving us insight into his technical knowledge too.
Yes.
Which is very helpful for the students.
Mr. Prem Kumar, the links are in the chat box. Are the links in the chat box?
Yes, sir. We have posted in the chat box.
But I cannot find it in the chat box. I think there are
Okay,
some
so I am
problems.
repost. 1 second posting it.
In the chat box, we have Dr. Shamasdar's homework, but Mr. Kumar, we cannot find your link in the chat box.
It is
Will you
not in
please
the
see
chat.
to it?
Now it is available in the chat box. Yes, now I can see.
Yes, now we can see it, yeah.
So here is the feedback link and the certificate link. The participants are requested to go to the feedback link and submit the feedback form. And after that, note down the certificate link. And Mr. Premkon, when the certificates will be available in that link? Is there any time mentioned for that?
Yes, sir. For quiz and feedback, the forum will be open for half an hour. After that, the certificates will be available to download after half an hour only.
Okay.
All right.
Yes.
Sushant sir, I think that's it, isn't it?
Yes, we should wait for 1 more minute and then
All
we'll
right.
end the session.
Okay.
Okay, Dr. Sarangi, I think now we can end the session, right, sir?
Surely.
Okay. Mr. Prem
All
Kumar.
Thank you, Mr. Kumar.
Thank you, sir. So we are closing the session, sir.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
definitely. Thank you,
Thank-
Dr. Sarangi. Thank you, Sushant.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
To all.